I know at one time he said, they asked about remorse for the murders. And he said, what murders? The people that died in Vietnam? The people that are dying in the Amazon rainforest right now?
To me, that's not an honest answer. Because he knew very well what murders were being discussed.
He didn't kill anybody.
No, he didn't kill anybody, but he was certainly involved in the killings. And whether he did or not, I feel sympathy for the victims of the Tate LaBianca murders, and I was 10 years old.
Why do we isolate this group of people? She was a movie star.
I think because they were murdered.
That's one reason. When every day, the potential for life on this planet is being murdered every day.
But you can't excuse one crime by saying there's another crime happening over here.
He talks about the... In fact, you played part of it, but you cut it off. You can't take him out of context. It's very important to let his whole
We had
thought...
an hour and a half of tape.
I know, but it's when you cut it, you lose the thought. You cut him when he said, you're not going to win this war by fighting yourself. You cut it there. He said, because you're at war with your children.
That's something that I think people...
Crime, and he explains this, the crime is a reflection of the top of society. When your presidents are lying, when your CIA is murdering around the world, when you have death
murder
squads,
somebody else to highlight that?
Society, the lower levels of society will always reflect the kingdom. If your parents and your president on up are lying and murdering and polluting and destroying every day, and this is fact, this is well known, what do you expect the kids coming up?
I don't expect them to murder anybody.
All right.
Why were Sharon Tate and Nino LaBianca and the others murdered, do you suppose?
There are many levels to that, and I can say...
Is there a simple reason?
There are a number of reasons. One, he explained to you specifically, it was to get a brother out of jail.
Did it work?
Did
he get out of jail?
The motive was to get a brother out of jail. That is one reason. Another reason is we, not Manson, because as he said to you, I'm dead in that thought. He was not of our generation. We were a generation of the 60s. We wanted to stop the war in Vietnam. We wanted to change the system. We seen that it was going for money at the expense of the well-being of the overall situation, the well-being of the ecology.
Okay,
we went to war. Now, he's talking about war. You calling crime, we called it war. We were at war. And I say we, I refer to Pat Krenwinkel, Leslie Van Houten.
I understand that. I'm hurrying up here. We have to go to a commercial again. I understand that, but I don't understand why you would kill Sharon Tate and other people who are clearly not at war with you.
It can be explained. It could be explained, believe me.
I've yet to hear an explanation, I have to admit. We have to take a break now. We'll be back. We're back discussing crime and the penal system. Why is it, Sandra, you were from an upper middle class background. I think you sold stock at one time to put into the family. That's what I'd heard anyway. But I was right about the upper middle.
I sold stock.
Sold stock.
Yeah, my dad gave me a lot of stock and I sold it.
Why is it that so many upper middle class kids end up
because we know the monstrousness of our ancestors.
Well, but I didn't join Charlie Manson, and I'm from the upper middle class. So why is it that I'm asking? I'm asking this gentleman.
Well, you know, at the time, certainly in the '60s, there was a lot of this. You saw middle class kids dressing and acting very often in lower socioeconomic ways, and there was a whole different time at that time. But you know, this whole thing is so crazy to me, and it's very sad because, in fact, I think it feeds on itself and it spawns its own problems. It's a shame because many of the problems that are being discussed are important problems, pollution, environmental, but it's so crazy and it's gotten so mixed up. And I think that is what we see of Charlie Manson having been in institutions from age 13 up until about 30. I don't think he was out there.
What does the environment and all these other things have to do with having killed somebody?
Well, let me tell you.
Wait. I felt like I sit here and I went through 5 minutes of Fantasyland. Come on.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Accept responsibility for your actions.
You take for granted as normal the insanity of destroying your ozone layer, your rainforest.
We're talking about a murder.
That's war. That was war. Those weren't murders. That was war against a system that is destroying its own children's future and destroying itself. And the movie industry is selling an illusion, and your minds are hooked to the Hollywood illusion. Your minds are not on Earth. It's not crazy. It's very sane. We were getting back to Earth, and we were trying to save it.
Yeah.
And if that's destroying the Hollywood illusion and taking people out of the Hollywood illusion and putting their minds back on Earth,
Sandra,
so be it.
What did Gary Hinman have to do with Hollywood?
That's another story. Gary Hinman had a breach of word problem with Bobby Beausoleil.
So he lied?
Yeah.
And he got murdered because he lied?
Yeah, there's dope dealing there, and that goes on every day. That's not just Manson. That's a...
But that's justification.
I have a question from the audience here. Yes,
Yeah.
How can you say y'all was doing good when y'all took a mother and a child's life?
Our government, that's government policy. We did that in
The
Vietnam.
government didn't have nothing to do with that?
We reflected the system
You're
back
not
in itself.
reflecting anything.
We reflected. We
No,
are
you're
society's
not.
children, and
No,
we
you're not.
reflected.
Sandra, I don't mean to pick on you or anything here, but you got to understand that killing a woman and tearing the baby from her uterus does not strike many as
That baby was not torn. The baby was not touched. If you look at the coroner's
you know
report,
what I'm saying, Sandra.
No, I'm saying
the baby was taken from the mother, right?
It was not.
Oh, yes, it was. Sandra, come on.
Look at the coroner's report.
And that's not the way to deal with environmentalism.
Look at the coroner's report. Ron, look at the coroner's report. The baby was not touched. Get your facts straight.
I think I have them straight.
Get them straight.
So
I'm telling
what
you.
you're saying is you feel like instead of the environment and the pollution killing people, you guys, it's okay for you guys to kill people.
We were society's children, right?
Not mine.
That's not my question. My question is, instead of the environment killing people, it's okay for you guys to kill people first, before the environment does it.
I think we're talking about personal responsibility here. And do you have any when you do something awful like that? Is Tex Watson responsible for what he did, or is it society's fault?
He's a definite reflection of society.
I don't care if he's a reflection of society. Is he responsible for his actions?
I think we're all responsible for our actions. However, he was definitely a product of society.
Well, so are we all, but so far I haven't killed anybody, and God help me,
Your
I hope I
government
don't.
does it for you, Ron.
Yes, I have a
Nobody's
straight
killing
question.
anybody for me.
Charles Manson and yourself, you have a swastika. Are you associated with a Nazi group? Are you for a white supremacy to kill the blacks, the Jews, the Hispanic, or what? This is a very serious matter, and you had no reason to kill an innocent woman like Sharon Tate. It's nothing to do with Hollywood. Thank you.
I've got a question for Dr. Miller. Victims can't get justice out of the system that we all pay for. How would he feel? I mean, it's real good to sit up there esoterically and say, well, it's the system's fault, and we made this man and everything else. How are you going to feel when this lady's mentor decides you need to be taken out or your family needs to be taken out?
I mean, it's the same kind of question.
Charlie didn't kill anybody. Listen, let's establish something. Let's establish something.
I think that question was for the doctor.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. You know, what I'm trying to get across, really, is not to excuse Charlie Manson, or certainly not the lady next to me, who makes no sense to me what she's saying whatsoever. Right? But having said that, wait, I didn't say that. I didn't say that to make fun of her. What I am saying, however, is that it should be no surprise that this sort of thinking emerges from an experience such as Manson had. And we shared in creating that. That doesn't make him less responsible. That doesn't make him less dangerous. I want him right where he is. But we best look at what's happening. My man here says, well, that occurred back in the 50s. I toured juvenile hall in L.A. 3 years ago. They were still hog-tying kids there, 13 and 12 and 14. And look in your average detention center. Look at all the Afro-American and Hispanic kids that are being stuffed in juvenile hall here in L.A. It's a scandal. It ought to be closed. And when I ran the system in Massachusetts, I closed all these damn places.
What the hell do you do with the offenders if you close the prison?
You treat them with, first off, I'm not talking about, wait a minute, I'm talking about kids primarily at this point, and that's what created Manson. He was a kid in this system. He was raped as a 13-year-old. That has some meaning. If your 13-year-old was raped, it would have some meaning. Now, I'm not suggesting we excuse him. I'm just suggesting you work that into your thinking of how we create these monsters. Because, in fact, we do share in setting up conditions out of which they arise. Look at Gary Gilmore, sent to McLaren School in Oregon, where they're strapped to iron beds. He himself, his brother said that's what created him. Sent there for breaking a window in junior high. Manson sent away for running away. We're not talking at that point about violent, heinous offenders.
I got to cut you off here. We got to take a break. We'll be back.
Because if you live by that gun, and you live by that knife, and you kill by that gun, and you kill by that knife, then you got no turns coming at the bitch table if it's your turn to die by that gun and that knife.
Once again, my guests are from the California Youth Correctional System, Frank Alarcon, prison reformer, Dr. Jerry Miller, a former member of the Manson family, Sandra Good, defense attorney Richard Racehorse Haynes, and from the L.A. Sheriff's Department, Sergeant Frank Salerno. Race, do prisons rehabilitate people?
I think not. I think that what they do is warehouse people for whatever period of time the jury or some judge decides to warehouse them, depending on the parole board. But no serious rehabilitation can take place. We don't have the money. We don't have the people. It just doesn't happen. It hadn't worked out.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, the one thing I agreed about, I was curious about the swastika, and nobody answered that question, whether or not you're now Nazi-oriented. And after you answer that question, my statement in general would be, I'm tired of hearing from Charles Manson, and I'm tired of seeing his face every time he comes up for parole and listening to that garbage.
I agree with that lady.
But about that swastika, right?
Yes. I would like to know about that.
What about the swastika? What was that all about in the first place?
It's an X on my head.
His is a swastika, though.
His is a swastika. The swastika is a very ancient symbol used by many, many cultures. The American Indians used it. The Hindus used it.
What does it mean to him?
Look up the ancient meanings of the different cultures,
that's
and that's what it means to him.
What does the cross mean?
Pardon me?
What does the cross mean on your
The
forehead?
X is I'm X'd out of the system thought, and I'm in a new thought for life on Earth.